being a good operator is an incredible skill set. But at the time I was like, I'm not one of these visionary idea people. I'm not creative. And in fact, I started working with a coach who had come really highly recommended to me. He gave me this assignment to go for a walk and don't take your phone, don't listen to music, no headphones, take a notebook, take a pen, try to listen to whatever inner voice is happening and what that voice is telling you. I would say a lot of my life has been trying things that look good on the surface, make me feel good about myself. And if I enjoy it, I keep doing more of it. And if I don't enjoy it, I have a very low tolerance for continuing to do things that I don't enjoy. I'm trying to spend as much of my time as possible strictly doing things that I enjoy doing. You know, being a creator, entrepreneurship, that's one of the few ways I think that you can make that a reality. I've developed a lot of self-awareness over the years. And if I look back patternistically at my behavior and growth at different stages, it really goes back to high school when I wanted to be really good at sports. I just wasn't as good, but I was really good at academics. It wasn't that hard, but being really good at academics earned me some level of respect that felt good. I don't really believe in any type of predetermination because I think that would be an oppressive way of living if you believe that things were predetermined. But I do believe that belief is the strongest force on the planet. Like all of the information you consume is the basis of your thoughts and beliefs. So if you're in a place where you're not getting the outcomes that you want, I would focus on changing the information you consume, changing the energy of the information you consume. But if you want different outcomes, you need to consume different information.
Hey there, friends. This is Dennis Geelen, author of the Happy Accidents newsletter and the book, The Accidental Solopreneur. Welcome to another episode of the Happy Accidents podcast, where we dive into true stories of wildly successful people, products, or businesses, all of which can trace their success back to a chance encounter, a serendipitous event, or a fluke invention. In each episode, we unravel the tales of unexpected triumphs and the remarkable journeys that led to their incredible success. I'm on a mission to explore the fascinating world of happy accidents, and I'm thrilled to have you along for the ride. So, why should you tune in? Well, besides the entertainment value of these incredible stories, there's a hidden treasure trove of lessons that we can learn from them. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a creative mind, or simply someone who enjoys a good narrative, this podcast is your go-to source for inspiring stories and valuable insights. Get ready for a roller coaster ride of surprises, a dash of luck, and a sprinkle of wisdom. This is the Happy Accidents podcast, where success meets serendipity. Let's jump into today's adventure. Jay Clouse is the founder of Creator Science, which is a leading voice in the creator economy. Creator Science provides advanced creator education through its newsletter, podcast, membership, and YouTube channel. He previously led the community experience team for Pat Flynn and the Smart Passive Income team, designing their paid membership community and cohort-based course programs. Jay Clouse, welcome to the Happy Accidents podcast.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Dennis. You've been a great person to be connected with and follow on LinkedIn, Twitter, even Threads. So I appreciate you, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Right off the bat, I just have to say, for anybody watching this on YouTube, we did not coordinate that we were both going to wear white hats. So there's our first happy accident right off the bat. We just we came with the same hats on. I'm really interested about diving into your story because I wrote about you and your story way back in edition number 27 of the Happy Accidents newsletter. It's up over 70 editions now, so that's like over a year ago. It's so great to have you here telling your story firsthand on the podcast, like over a year later. What I want to start with is your background. Today, you're a successful content creator. You help thousands of other creators learn how to create great content and build a business around it. But I have to assume that wasn't your original dream coming out of high school.
Sure. I mean, I didn't have a dream coming out of high school. Coming out of high school, the one thing I thought I knew I didn't want to do was teach, because my parents were both high school teachers. My entire extended family really are K through 12 educators. And it was like the family business, quote unquote. And I thought that life was going to college, picking a major, working a job that, you know, came from that major and doing it for like 30 to 35 years and then retiring. And I couldn't think of a single thing that I would want to do for 30 to 35 years. It just seemed so oppressive. It just like felt like a bummer. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left high school. I went to Ohio State University because I'm from Ohio, and I thought I was really into sports and wanted to do sports journalism, actually. And Ohio State invited me to a scholarship competition, which was a writing competition. And that through that scholarship competition, I won tuition to Ohio State. So that made my college choice very, very simple. My first happy accident was actually in applying for dorm rooms at Ohio State, where they had just built this brand new honors dorm that had these special bathroom pods. Instead of having like a shared bathroom, you had like a specific single room with a toilet and a shower and a sink. And I thought, well, I'm a sensitive, shy boy. That seems like something I would want. So I applied to that honors dorm to have the fancy bathrooms. That honors dorm was oversubscribed. So they decided, well, we'll just dump you in the other honors dorm. That was like the oldest dorm on campus, had not been updated in the longest amount of time. And luckily for me, I shared a common wall with two guys who had both started businesses in high school. And I wasn't trying to be like your typical honors kid. I was actually trying to be your typical college kid. And so I was like ready to party and do whatever. And in that honors dorm, those guys were the only ones that were like not doing homework every night and would put up with me. So I'd go in there and pitch them on like app ideas and stuff. And they showed me that entrepreneurship was a thing. They actually introduced me to the entrepreneurship organization at Ohio State. And that like fundamentally changed my entire trajectory.
So you go there originally thinking sports journalism. I think you actually wrote for the university paper as well, correct?
I did.
Yeah. So that was the trajectory you thought you were on. You just by happenstance end up, you know, with these other guys who are into entrepreneurship, and that opens your eyes to, oh, there's a different path here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so what happens then? Your eyes are opened. Sports journalism maybe is not your dream, or at least what you thought it was going to be. Entrepreneurship seems to be a door that may be opening. What happened next?
Well, I did both for a little bit because I was good at the journalism thing. I was good at the writing thing. The faculty advisor for the student paper really took a liking to me and was a big advocate for me. And he signed me into like the senior level writing courses at the beginning of my sophomore year. And I had the good fortune of covering the football team. It was awesome because I would get to go to like these different media days during the week, and I would sit there and they feed you like a 3-course meal before they have a press conference. And for someone growing up in Ohio, having watched the Buckeyes his whole life, it was like I was sitting in the radio. Like I could hear everyone around me. I could hear their voices, and it's the voices that I've been listening to on the radio for like 20 years and TV. But then what happened was I looked around and I realized the only people in this room that are even remotely close to my age are the people who are students at Ohio State. I'm never going to get the opportunity to cover the Buckeyes again unless I work at some other paper for like 30 years and that sports editor retires or dies. So it just felt like the thing I want to do here actually like isn't a real opportunity. And I had been attending meetings from this entrepreneurship club all along the way and was hearing stories of business owners and entrepreneurs and what they're doing. And it was just blowing my brain wide open. I did not realize that it was possible to chart your own path, do your own thing. But this is during the time when Airbnb was getting started, Uber was getting started, Facebook was getting started. So my view of entrepreneurship was high growth software startup.
Right.
That's what I thought entrepreneurship was. And so, I moved in that direction. I interned at some startup companies, graduated from college, could not get the consulting job that business school trained me to want, and co-founded a software startup out of college. That went pretty well. We raised a round of funding. We went through an accelerator program. We ended up selling that company within a few years. And I was like, okay, I did the thing, but also like this software startup thing is way harder than I thought it was going to be. And I don't have another idea. I'm not going to just jump right back into that. Ended up taking a product management job at another venture-backed healthcare startup. But that was challenging for me because I went from co-founder in the room in every meeting, making decisions for the team, to now I had a boss that I didn't particularly gel with. I wasn't in the leadership rooms all the time. So it was an ego thing for me. It was tough. But that is when the second happy accident kind of happened.
You tell what, so you go from the startup world back to the employee world. You don't particularly like the job you've got in the product management. What happens next?
I felt really stuck because I didn't like what I was doing, didn't particularly have an idea for like another software company. And to that point, I really felt like just an operator, which I'm realizing now, like being a good operator is an incredible skill set. But at the time I was like, I'm not one of these visionary idea people. I'm not creative. And in fact, I started working with a coach who had come really highly recommended to me. And at one point in the program, he gave me this assignment to go for a walk and don't take your phone, don't listen to music, no headphones, take a notebook, take a pen, try to listen to whatever inner voice is happening and what that voice is telling you. And the thing that came up for me, the inner voice was this like constant negative loop of like, I'm not creative, I'm not an artist, I don't have good ideas, I'm less valuable because of that. And so I wrote that on a piece of paper and I showed it to him and he said, okay, now let's flip the script on that and say, what if this narrative is not true? What if actually the opposite is true? What if you are creative? What if you do have good ideas? What if you are valuable? What if that became the narrative? And so I burned that piece of paper, and to start creating evidence that the narrative was not true, I started taking actions to prove the opposite. And that began as a newsletter that I was writing every single day. I thought if I write every day, I can prove that I have ideas, I can prove that I'm creative. And if I publish it publicly, that will give me the accountability that I need to actually do the thing and write it every day. And that, step that I took in January of 2017 to start writing and publishing every day put me on the path to where I am now.
Oh, were you creative as a child?
I don't remember being that creative as a child. I mean, there are some things I remember, like I distinctly remember being very young and thinking to myself, there's no reason I couldn't invent my own language. Like there's no reason me and my friends couldn't come up with our own form of language, words that mean other words, and then no one would be able to listen into us or know what we're saying. And so like I literally did that. I had like this huge packet of paper that was like, this, made up gibberish word means this. Kind of an impossible thing to do, by the way, like create an entire language. Like you're literally, you'd have to catalog every word and then tie another word to it. But I was trying. So, in retrospect, I can definitely see some creative things. And I was drawing, I was writing like short stories, actually. So in retrospect, I see that. But nobody was like really nurturing that or telling me I was creative. So it wasn't something that I recognized in myself.
Mm. Yeah. First of all, creating your own language, that's such a 10-year-old thing to do. I think I probably did the same thing with my friends. But yeah, I firmly believe that we are all creative by nature. It's a matter of, is it nurtured in us? Do we have that teacher, that parent that really encourages it in us? Or is it suppressed? Color within the lines, follow the rules, just do what I say, right? So some people, they're allowed to really explore that creativity, and others, like yourself, don't realize it till later in life. So I'm just going to back up for a second. You're going down one path. You think you're going to be a sports journalist. You end up with these guys where, boy, entrepreneurship might be a thing. You go down that road. You try a bunch of different things. Co-founder, I think you were in marketing, you were in public relations, you were in business development, you were a product manager. I like to say that's setting the stage. That's you were getting out there, you were increasing your luck surface area by meeting different people, acquiring different skills, having all kinds of different experiences. And that really set the stage for this happy accident of, hey, maybe I am creative. I just haven't been able to unlock it yet. Do you think if you hadn't have had those few years of experiences, it may not have set the stage for that to happen?
I don't know. I mean, I think during those years, I tried a lot of things. And really, like if we zoom into the timeline, it was a lot of me not knowing exactly what I wanted. So I would like put on the jacket of what other people wanted, people that like I admired. So I was like, okay, sports journalism is going to be a thing. It seems like the business college is what I should do. It seems like the most prestigious thing in the business college is finance. And then that became, the most prestigious thing is actually investment banking. Let me try my hand at getting an internship there or studying that. Oh, I hate that actually. So it seems like the next most prestigious thing would be consulting. Let me try that out. Oh, they're not going to give me a second interview. I can't get that job. So it was a lot of like trying to fit in with the crowds of people that I wanted to fit in with, and aspiring to the same things they aspired to, failing at it. Like I was never good enough to do the things that I was trying to do, until eventually it was like, okay, well, I have this opportunity to start this company and no one's telling me that I can't do that. So I guess that's what I'm going to do. And I would say a lot of my life has been trying things that look good on the surface, make me feel good about myself. And if I enjoy it, I keep doing more of it. And if I don't enjoy it, I have a very low tolerance for continuing to do things that I don't enjoy.
Right.
So I'm just on this path of like, I'm trying to spend as much of my time as possible strictly doing things that I enjoy doing. And, you know, being a creator, entrepreneurship, that's one of the few ways I think that you can make that a reality.
Yep. So the initial foray then into this creativity was your newsletter. What was that initial launch like? Did it take a while to get the habit? Did it take a while to grow some subscribers?
I didn't even like have language of launching at all. Like this isn't that long ago. It's 2017, and everything we're doing today was being done in some form in 2017 in some corner of the internet. It was just called different things. So I hadn't yet stumbled upon the like internet marketing corner of the world yet, but I had seen that people were writing emails. Right. Specifically, I was subscribed to Seth Godin. I was actually an early James Clear subscriber. So I was like, I can write emails also. But there's no launch. It was like, I have a list in MailChimp. I post on Facebook that I'm doing this thing. I ask friends and family to subscribe to it. And I don't remember how slow it was. I know that by the middle of 2020, which was 3.5 years later, I moved to ConvertKit with 1,800 subscribers. So it was definitely slow. It was definitely slow.
Right. So it wasn't this big launch. It wasn't this big, hey, I'm going to get to 1,000 subscribers in X number of months. It was really more, I want to see if I can do this and really create this habit.
And nobody was talking like that then.
Right.
That wasn't like, there wasn't like these circle of people on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever talking about newsletters nearly as much. I mean, you had like Pat Flynn, who I actually didn't know at the time. You had like Marie Forleo and Amy Porterfield. So you had a lot of the people that are big in the space still today. This was like kind of their heyday, but I wasn't in those circles yet. I was following just a couple of people who were basically like lifestyle bloggers. Right. And I thought it would be cool to be a lifestyle writer, like just write about your stuff. That's pretty cool. So yeah, there was no like stated goal. There was no launch. There was no understanding of the model. At the end of 2018, I got an email, actually an in-mail from a product manager at LinkedIn who was on the LinkedIn Learning course team. And I was just thinking about this today. When I was working at this healthcare startup, I hosted a meetup there for the product design organization in town. And I gave a talk on product management because we needed more product managers. So I gave a product management 101 talk. I wanted to put that talk on my website because I thought I wanted to do speaking. So I recorded the talk. We had a great camera in the office, so I recorded the talk. I had our motion graphics guy edit it lightly, and I uploaded it to my personal YouTube just as a hosting place so that I could put it on my website. And someone from LinkedIn reached out and they said, hey, we're actually creating courses around product management. We found your video on YouTube. Would you like to be a LinkedIn learning instructor? And that was like total, talk about happy accident. That was nothing. I wasn't trying to do that. I've since had people ask me, like, how do I do a LinkedIn learning course? And I was like, I wish I could tell you. It just happened by total happenstance. Ended up publishing 7 courses of LinkedIn learning. At that time in my career, going back out on my own as an entrepreneur, it was incredible for cash flow. And it showed me like, oh, I could create courses. I could do this. And then I started understanding more like the game at hand, where writers of email were pairing that with creating and selling courses. And I thought I could do this. And man, if I could just sell like 1 course a month, that would be life-changing money right now. And that put me down the next path.
Wow. So yeah, a few different serendipitous things leads to another few different serendipitous things. And here you find yourself now more and more in the creator space. How did you end up connecting with Pat Flynn?
So once I left, rewind a second. I did that exercise with my coach. A couple weeks later, I came to realize I'm probably going to leave this job soon. And in April of that year, we had a extended leadership team discussion where the company was pivoting its direction drastically, and my role personally was going to change. And I just had this voice in my head that's like, just leave now. You don't want to learn a new role, just leave now. So I put in my 2 weeks. I actually tried to put in 6 weeks. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to do my own thing. And they said, actually, your role is going to change. So why don't we pay you out 2 weeks, but you can leave tomorrow.
Oh.
So I went from I'll probably quit this job someday to completely unemployed with no plan in a matter of 48 hours. And I was not sure what I was going to do, but the one idea I had percolating was facilitating mastermind groups, because I had a conversation with a friend of mine who was a lawyer, but he was starting his own speaking and writing business. We didn't have the word creator at the time, so we didn't have these terms, but I could see that he was doing things independently around speaking and creating a podcast. He said, if I were you and I had the network that you do, I would facilitate mastermind groups because they're really high impact. You can charge good money for them. You have the network, you can connect people. And so I didn't even know what that term was. I had to learn it from him, but I thought, yeah, I could probably group together, 5 people at a time and facilitate a conversation that benefits everybody. I can do that. So I started doing that. That became the main financial driver for me for about 3 years. And in one of those groups, I met Matt Gartland, who had not yet joined Pat Flynn as Pat's business partner. But Matt was running a creative agency that was doing things like helping what we now call creators self-publish books. And Pat was one of his biggest clients, to the point where Matt approached Pat. They joined forces and became one, and Matt's team became the creative team underneath Pat's smart passive income business. Anyway, but I met Matt before they had fused teams. He had experienced that mastermind group. He had experienced the community that I put together on the back end in Slack. And he was impressed with how I had facilitated community there. So in 2020, when the world starts to blow up, Matt and Pat are changing their plans for the year, and they're fast tracking this project they had, which was a online community. And they brought me in to consult on that project to help them think about how to set it up and use this brand new tool that they had private access to called Circle. So that was the beginning.
Love it. And now obviously you've got your own community, the lab with the Greater Science. So obviously learned a ton and have now been able to apply that to your own mastermind or community space. So just an incredible, turn of events. I want to dig in and ask you a couple of things around this topic of serendipity, happenstance. Obviously, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of intention to build a business. But as we explore on this podcast, there's always these little things that happen along the way that amplify it or give you a choice. You could have been roommates with those entrepreneurs back then in university going, yeah, that's not my path. I'm going this way. And you didn't even pay attention to it, right? You could have had that person reach out to you from LinkedIn and go, well, we saw your video on YouTube. Have you thought about LinkedIn Learning? No, that's not what I'm into. But you recognize these moments and you capitalize on them. And that seems to be a common theme in any of the different happy accident stories that I share in the newsletter, in the podcast. It's, I'm doing something to set the stage, and then I recognize this opportunity, and then I capitalize on it. Is that something you can kind of look back in retrospect and say, yeah, that's kind of the formula that's been happening along the way?
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I've developed a lot of self-awareness over the years. And if I look back patternistically at my behavior and growth at different stages, it really goes back to high school when I wanted to be really good at sports. I just wasn't as good as I wanted to be, as my dad wanted me to be, but I was really good at academics. And it wasn't that hard, but being really good at academics earned me some level of respect that felt good. When I went to Ohio State, suddenly I am in a school of 60,000 people. I'm not going to be the best academic student at that school. And that was like a difficult thing to wrestle with, but I still had this like desire to be somebody, to like earn respect. And so I was constantly like looking at like, okay, who's getting respect? Who has lives that, I admire, that I want to have what they have? Like there was a fair amount of ego involved, but there is just like this innate drive that I have to make a mark, to stand out, to be different. And over the years, you realize actually the only thing that matters is like if you are better at helping people get the results they want. And then like the things that you want become as a side effect of that, at least over the long term. Like you can hack your way selfishly to being relevant and, respected. But if you're not actually building relationships and respect and esteem within other people, it's all for nothing really.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm always looking for like, how can I get this thing of respect and esteem?
Right. Yeah, it's that old Zig Ziglar quote. I think he says something to the effect of, if you want to be successful in life, help a bunch of other people be successful. And I mean, just interacting with you online, on social media, you're a very positive person. You're always cheering others on. You're not tearing people down or tearing down other concepts. You're there to build people up. It sounds like that's something you're very intentional and deliberate about.
Yeah, well, I think, again, this is something I've developed language for recently. I think I intuitively realized that, one, people need to be lifted up. Like the things that we're trying to do are really hard. So you need support and encouragement as much as you need advice. But I also realized what you put out is kind of what you attract in. So if I, put out cynical, snarky content, it may perform well, quote unquote, and get engagement, but it also filters for a very particular person and sentiment. And personally, I'm an optimist. I would rather be surrounded by other optimists that give me energy rather than make me feel down. So, the only way for that to be true is for you to live that out, because that's what attracts it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that about you. And it shines through in your content, in your comments, and your engagement. It's definitely part of your personal brand, another term that's, popular these days. I want to dig into one more area of serendipity, randomness, happenstance. There's a book that came out recently, and I just actually interviewed the author on the podcast a few weeks ago. The book's called Luck by Design, and the author's name is Adam Tank. And in the book, he shares this story about Charlize Theron and how, the moment that she kind of made it in Hollywood. And the story goes that before that time, she was struggling. She grew up in South Africa. She moved to the States to try and make it as a model or an actress. It wasn't going well. She tried modeling in New York, and that was failing. She moved to Los Angeles and was down to like her last pennies. Her mom sent her a check from South Africa to help her out. She was at the bank. She's trying to cash this check. They won't accept it. There's a bunch of different things going on as to why they wouldn't accept the check from her. Maybe she didn't have the right identification or whatever, but she just about loses it at the bank. And it just so happens that the guy standing behind her in line is a Hollywood agent. Taps her on the shoulder, says, "I'll help you out," gives her his card. They end up forming a relationship as a, agent and client, gets her a bunch of roles, and the rest is kind of history. Well, years into her career, she's on Oprah, and she tells that story. And she says, "I guess I just got lucky." Oprah's response is, "I don't believe in luck. I think it was your destiny." I think people are just destined to be what they are. Do you have a take on that? I know this is a bit of a deep subject, but do you have a take? Like, do you feel like, hey, I was destined to do what I'm doing now, or has it just been a bunch of random events that have led you here?
I don't really believe in any type of predetermination, because I think that would be an oppressive way of living if you believe that things were predetermined. But I do believe that belief is the strongest force on the planet. Like, if you watch documentaries with stars like Charlize Theron, or athletes, or even like business success, good or bad, like we have these incredible stories about WeWork and like the fraud that was happening there, or the Theranos stuff, Firefest. Like, those are bad outcomes, but remarkable events. And there's a through line to all these things, which is the people at the center of those events believed they could do the thing. If you believe you can do the thing, you can do the thing. If you don't believe you can do the thing, you're not going to do it. So I think in these circumstances, when you believe that you can achieve a certain thing, you are more likely to take the actions and put yourself in the position where that becomes possible. That's my belief.
Yeah. Self-confidence, self-awareness, they're huge components to success. So I'm going to end this off eventually with some fun facts about you, but I want first for you to have an opportunity to give your advice, your tips for somebody out there who's just starting out on their journey. Maybe they're a creator, maybe not, but obviously self-awareness and self-confidence is huge. But what are some other things that people can do to really help along their journey?
Your outcomes are determined by your inputs. So on one hand, like, there are true things like you should work hard. You should do extraordinary things if you think that you want extraordinary outcomes. But also, all of the information you consume is the basis of your thoughts and beliefs. So if you're in a place where you're not getting the outcomes that you want, I would focus on changing the information you consume, changing the maybe even like energy of the information you consume. But, if you want different outcomes, you need to consume different information upstream. That's what I'm focusing a lot of my time on right now. And a lot of times it's not just saying who are the best thinkers today, who are the best voices to listen to today, it's going back in time and saying, what are some of the best sources of information that are timeless, that have stood true for decades, centuries, millennia? Because a lot of people are obsessed with the right now, and they're all consuming the same information, which means that they're all making the same products. They're all making the same content. Right. So I think the zig that you can do while other people zag is to go back in time a little bit and find a different, more evergreen topic. And also like study wisdom from years and decades and centuries past, because anybody talking today, like they've got it figured out, they have no idea. Everyone's making it up as they go, and it's dangerous just to stay like in the loop of like what's relevant right now. It's not that interesting. So, you know, the magic for any creator is really honing your unique taste. And that also comes from the sources that you're learning from. And I think, you know, you should do the hard work of trying different stuff than what other people are trying, so that you can form different taste than other people.
Love that. Great advice. Don't just jump on the latest trend. Find what works for you and go with the timeless wisdom. Beautiful. So I have a few fun facts lined up here. These are ones that I actually shared in the newsletter over a year ago. So I'm going to reshare them because they'll be very different now. You'll see what I'm talking about. Okay. So at the time I wrote, the Creator Science podcast has amassed an astounding 1.5 million downloads, which is a testament to your ability to captivate and connect with your audience. Do you know what the podcast is at now?
It's not going to be all that impressive. I think we just crossed 2 million recently. What's surprising though, the big difference is that we crossed 4 million views on YouTube. Wow. Which a view is actually more valuable in my eyes than a download, because a download does not mean a listen, and a view is more like a listen. So the growth of show is actually the emergence of an entire new platform.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, YouTube is just such a great discovery platform, right? So, okay, next fun fact. With your passion and expertise for helping other creators, last year, you were on track for about $500,000 in revenue. I think I've seen you post that this year you're on track for 850 or so. Is that correct?
Yeah, we ended the year last year at 565, and
nice.
The latest projection I had for 2024 is 845.
Wow. Very good. So still trending at a nice upward direction there. And again, a testament to what you're putting out and the help that you're giving other people. This one here is probably my favorite fun fact. You've turned into a great podcast host yourself. And last year you were interviewed by one of my favorite podcasters, Guy Raz. I believe it was on his Creators podcast. He's also the host of the How I Built This podcast. So fun fact here, there's a very specific question that Guy Raz asks at the end of every How I Built This podcast. You might be familiar with it. He asks the person, hey, how much of your success would you say is due to hard work and how much is luck? And I was always fascinated with their answers. Some people would say, oh no, it was all me. I had this plan. It was all hard work. Most people would say, yeah, I had some lucky breaks along the way. If I hadn't met this person, if I hadn't been introduced to this, if this idea hadn't been. So that was really what sparked the whole Happy Accidents newsletter and podcast for me. So I just find it really cool that I've been listening to the How I Built This podcast for so long. And then there you are, interviewed by Guy Raz on his Creators podcast.
Well, thank you. I wasn't interviewed on his show. I interviewed him on mine, and he promoted my show on his show. I hope someday to be in a place where I'm worthy of being interviewed by Guy Raz, but our joint episode together was very fun. He's somebody that there have only been a handful of folks in the podcast that like they come on and I have a vision of who they are and they completely blow that out of the water by being like even more pleasant and amazing than I expected. And he was one of them. He was incredible to talk to on air, off air, really great.
Yeah, I can imagine. He just kind of has that air about him. So what's next for you, Jay?
Well, we're having a baby girl in the next couple of months. So everything now is preparing for that so that mama and baby are number one priority, which, you know, I feel like if I'm honest with where I've been putting so much of my time for the last 7 years, like the business has been such a huge priority. Like even though emotionally I say, you know, family comes first all the time, my actions would show that a lot of times I put the business first.
Right.
So I'm trying to get the business in a place where that can be not true in my actions.
Yeah, parenthood is a big one. So all the best in that, and that's a huge thing. And again, all the best in being able to put the family first. That's a huge important thing. Where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Well, if you like podcasts, search for Creator Science on YouTube or in your podcast player. You'll enjoy that show, or go to creatorscience.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on the Happy Accidents podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the Happy Accidents podcast. I hope you find these stories as intriguing and insightful as I do, but make sure you don't miss an episode. You can subscribe to my Accidental Solopreneur channel on YouTube and watch these episodes in video form, or subscribe to the Happy Accidents podcast on Apple and Spotify for your listening pleasure. Until next time, stay lucky, my friends.